Recorded Books and One Click Digital present Never a Dull Moment, 1971, the year that rock exploded, by David Hepworth. Narrated by the author.
Forward. On New Year's Eve 1970, Paul McCartney instructed his lawyers to issue a writ at the High Court in London to wind up the Beatles. The 60s ended that day, which was a year late, strictly speaking. You might say this was the last day of the pop era. The following day, which was Friday, was 1971. You might say this was the first day of the rock era. 1971 would also turn out to be the busiest, most creative, most innovative, most interesting, and longest resounding year of that era. Nobody dreamed the rock era would last as long as it has done. In those days, nobody expected any form of entertainment to last, least of all rock music. In fact, people joined rock bands to get away from things that lasted. But many of those who first achieved stardom in 1971, David Bowie, Rod Stewart, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Elton John and Joni Mitchell, have since gone on to enjoy careers longer than their contemporaries who became novelists, politicians, captains of industry and actors, let alone their old friends who remained at school when they hit the road with a guitar over their shoulder. Similarly, nobody imagined 1971 would see the release of more influential albums than any year before or since. That influence hasn't merely been felt by later generations of musicians, most of whom weren't born in 1971. It's also been felt by the performers themselves. Many of them are still around and more popular than ever. They're still reaping massive rewards from that rock industry that began in 1971. They wish they could still write songs that are as good, make records that are as strong, and express themselves as unself-consciously as they did in 1971. For those of us who were listening, it never got any better than 1971. During those 12 months, in a surge of creativity, playfulness, ambition, technological breakthrough, ego, and blissful ignorance, a huge proportion of the most memorable albums ever made were released. I was born in 1950. For a music fan, that's the winning ticket in the lottery of life. I grew up in the 1960s. At the time, we didn't know these were going to become the 60s and follow us around forever. Those years seemed no more unique than any other 10-year period. I was 13 on that Friday in November 1963 when JFK was shot. I felt a bat squeak of patriotism a few months later when the Beatles conquered America. I was 15 when Bobby Gregg's snare shot announced Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone. Bruce Springsteen, who was just 6 months older, heard it while he was in the car with his mother. He later described it as somebody kicking open the door to your mind. I came of age in 1971, the same year that rock did. At the time, I was at college and spending what little spare cash I had on records. Like many similarly inclined young men, and we were mainly men, all my consumer appetites were channeled through the record shop. Jerry Seinfeld says that for the first 10 years of his life, the only clear thought in his mind was get candy. We were like that with records. All the cash that came my way, the £40 I had each term for anything more than board, food and tuition, the pay I got from holiday jobs, birthday gifts from distant relatives, and record tokens, obviously, was instantly converted into albums. There was simply nothing else I wanted to spend money on. I spent every idle moment hanging around record shops, being in the presence of, learning the names of, combing the covers of, and sometimes even listening to those things I wanted that I could not have. It was a life spent in pursuit of a gratification endlessly deferred. At the time,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?